Hello, I'm Melisa Idris, and this is The Future is Female, the show where we find the extraordinary in every woman. I'm here at the UN offices in Putrajaya, ready to speak to Ibu Armida Salsiah Alisjahbana. She is the UN Under-Secretary General and the head of the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. Now, Ibu Armida is the United Nations highest ranking official here in the Asia Pacific region, and she recently took office in November last year. We're here to talk to her a little bit about what the UN and UN ESCAP is doing in terms of gender parity and female empowerment. Well, thank you so much for joining us on The Future is Female and for doing away with formalities. So, Ibu Armida, yeah?
Yes.
Before we get into the work that the UN and ESCAP is doing in the area of gender equality and women's empowerment, I'd like to get to know you a little bit better.
Sure, yes.
You know, from 2009 to 2014, you were the Minister of National Development Planning and the head of National Development Planning Agency, Bappenas in Indonesia. So, talk to me a little bit about why working for social development is so important for you personally. What do you hope to achieve with your work?
Thank you very much, Melissa. It's my pleasure to be here in this. The Future is Female, which is very, very appropriate and timely. And getting back to your question, I think again, social development or development, overall development is very important because in countries such as Indonesia, it rests on the importance of how to transform the society. Society overall, not only education, but also in terms of health, in terms of women empowerment, in terms of children education.
Have you seen how your work has impacted women and children through some of the policies that you've had?
Well, of course, not my policy per se, but at that time, Indonesia's government, commitment to development, Again, it's not only social, but also economic, environment, and more importantly, also governance.
I'd love to
overall,
talk to you about the economic cost of gender inequality, and and all that entails. The cost of not empowering women in this region. But if we could focus on, say, what the UN is doing now that you are head of ESCAP, and you've had this post since November last year.
Yes.
You're the third woman to helm ESCAP. Let's talk a little bit about with a bird's eye view of the UN's 2030 agenda. So the UN's 2030 agenda for sustainable development to quote unquote leave no one behind. How does that work within the frame of gender equality and female empowerment?
Well, of course, to achieve this overall commitment, by 2030, all countries already committed. And how to reach, for example, no poverty, more inclusive society. Of course, increased welfare, in every aspect of life. I believe the key of it is on women. One of the key, of course, is on women because women comprises half of the population. Women, of course, are mothers, raising the children, and also helping, of course, sustainable livelihoods, and so on and so forth. So, women is key, and if you look at the data, in terms of various indicators, education and so on, in many parts, especially countries in our region, women are still lagging behind. Maybe not so much in Malaysia, but in several countries in our region. So,
for instance?
Well, countries in Southwest Asia, where gender empowerment, gender parity is still quite a big challenge. So therefore, how to facilitate these countries to catch up?
We're going to take a short break, but stay with us on The Future is Female. More after this. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Melisa Idris and this is The Future is Female. Now let's get back to my conversation with Ibu Armida Salsiah Alisjahbana, who is the UN Under Secretary General, also the head of the UN ESCAP, which is the UN Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. When you look at the data, what is it that you're measuring? How do you measure gender equality and women empowerment? To make sure, because I understand that your programs and your policies, they're all evidence-based.
Right,
so
yes,
it's based on data and research on the ground. So what are you measuring when you're looking at specific countries?
Yes, for example, education. Yeah, education. Women is not quite at par, with their male counterpart in terms of education.
As in the level of education?
Yeah, level of education, especially if you then focus more on the poorest households, for example. Yeah, and then in terms of women participation in the labor market is also average women participation labor force, labor market about 50%, whereas men is already 70 to 80%.
So you're losing half of potential workforce when it comes to women because they're not participating in the workforce.
But again, of course, understanding that women has its also unique role, in the household, in children rearing and so on and so forth,
But still unpaid.
Right, as well. But again, aside from the labor market participation, which is much lower than their male counterparts, as well as in the sectors, the employment sectors where they're employed, usually more in the informal sector, unpaid working, opportunities, and maybe also not really good working conditions. So several of those challenges.
So you mentioned, Ibu did something quite interesting. You talked about education. I think education is key when it comes to gender parity, when it comes to women empowerment, especially you start them young, right? Level the playing field as they are young. It's passport to better jobs, higher incomes, and better social status. The issue with the level of education is the high dropout rates.
Right. Yeah, that's correct.
And that has a lot to do with the income of a household, especially in the poorer countries. What work or what have you seen through your work, and what have you done through your work in terms of trying to, I guess, improve the chances of girls staying in school?
While we do not directly work on education-related issues, but what we work is on facilitating, advocating the so-called gender mainstreaming in the budgeting process.
I see. What do you mean by gender mainstreaming in the budgeting process?
Right. Yes. So we facilitate, we train, we do a lot of workshop. With government officials that prepare the planning and budgeting. So how to mainstream these gender-related issues into the planning and budgeting process in their respective countries. For example, if a certain programs or activities, financed through the budget, so make sure that women are given priorities, given attention.
I see.
In terms of education, health related programs, including also we work, now on a project on gender, empowerment through this entrepreneurship and ICT.
Oh, okay.
Right,
So
yeah.
empowering women to get involved in
Right.
business,
Right, empowering women entrepreneurs.
entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Are countries, are governments receptive to
Yes, yes, very much, very much.
Surely, I'm sure governments
Mhm.
around the world, especially in this region, want to create policies that will lift young girls and women. But is there enough focus being given by these individual countries? Because when you think about, in the list of priorities,
Mhm.
development
Yes.
issues are just one of the many things that governments are looking at.
Yes, that's why what we do, yeah, in these particular activities is also to create or facilitate the so-called enabling environment
Okay.
policies also, yeah.
Enabling environment.
Enabling environment, yeah, for these women entrepreneurs, yeah, to get access to finance and also to equip them to be, let's call ICT or tech savvy, yeah,
Mhm.
in their businesses. But businesses in this case is the micro, small, and medium enterprises
Right.
that are, women
Could we narrow
driven.
the focus a bit? Because you look at a region that is two-thirds of the
Right,
world's
right.
population. You've got
Mhm.
everywhere from Turkey all the way to New Zealand.
Right,
So,
yeah.
talk to me about specific countries, because not all countries are created equal. They're all of different development levels. Which countries do you think are really leading the way in this region in terms of investing in young girls and women empowerment?
Certainly, I cannot pinpoint one or two specific countries, yeah, but in general, yeah, in general, countries in Northeast Asia, maybe they are quite advanced. Several countries, certainly in Southeast Asia, yeah, several of our neighbor countries, yeah, one or two neighboring countries. But overall, while we see progress, we also see challenges, yeah. So therefore, the project activities that I mentioned to you earlier on this women empowerment, on entrepreneurship, we targeted specific countries in our region.
Which kind of countries?
Yeah, several countries in South Asia, for example, Bangladesh
I see.
and Nepal.
Mm-hmm.
Several countries in Southeast Asia, for example, Cambodia, Vietnam, and countries in Pacific, for example, it's Solomon or Samoa, yeah, and Fiji.
Mm-hmm, I see. What about Malaysia, Ibu?
Malaysia.
How do we rank when it comes to the work that the Malaysian government is doing in uplifting women?
I'm sure, yeah. It is also one of priority focus. Especially your current government is very committed, and but with regard to Malaysia, several notes that we have here, maybe more in the sense of participation in like par- parliamentarians or MPs,
representation
representation
parliament,
in
that's
parliaments,
true, yeah.
right? Yeah, women may be a bit underrepresented. Yeah.
I do think we have
Right.
some work to do there for sure. I do want to talk a little bit about, because of your background in economics and national development planning, I want to talk about that economic upside of women's empowerment. There is a cost to gender disparity when women are not, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, 50% of women don't participate in the labor market. That's a cost to the country's productivity and national income. What have you seen in terms of trying to reduce the economic cost of not having gender parity?
Certainly, we have to focus on the source. Yeah. Right. So that's why girls' education. That's I think one of the foremost priority, and second also how to facilitate these women entrepreneurs again. Yeah. The women entrepreneurs are already there, yeah,
Is it about funding, Ibu? Is it about
especially
giving them money?
MSMEs. Yeah, funding is only one of the issues. many other also, priority issues, but certainly funding, access to finance, one of the key issues. And then with this advance, and interest in IT, ICT, fintech, and how to facilitate these women entrepreneurs, to access, this this technology, the IT ICT technology to equip them better, to run their business better.
So the challenge is in providing them access to technology, or
Access
in
and
getting
also
them to adopt it?
Access and also the know-how.
I see.
Both,
Okay.
to run their business better. Now, if you see, in countries in our region, for example, I know this very much happening in Indonesia. With fintech, with IT ICT, they can market their products through Instagram.
Right.
Use
that as a marketplace. For sure, yes. I understand. I mean, it is a great leveling leveler for entrepreneurs. So even if you're starting out, you can market your products
but
well.
the question is how, to do it in a more systematic and structured fashion, not ad hoc, and how also to use this technology to better manage your business, So
I guess I also would like to get your hopes. I mean, you've been working in social development for many decades now. You're with the UN. I mean, the highest body there is to be working on social development. What really is your hope for your work to achieve? What do you hope to see when it comes to the trickle down effect of your work?
Again, UN ESCAP, is a regional commission. It's not so much a UN institution that works directly at the grassroots level, because our work is more at the regional level, more intergovernmental sort of thing.
So do you advise policymakers?
Yes, some of that, but then we also understand, that we also need to, how do you say it, to bridge, what our work also to the country level, so therefore we work closely with our colleagues, at the country team. So how to channel, various initiatives that we are working on that can also translate to the country.
How do you do that? So how do you make sure that your work is not just lost at the working paper level, but for it to be translated down to policy on the ground?
So that's why, again, using the example of this women entrepreneurship project activities that we are doing, we do this in 7 countries. So what we do is we do not only work on one country per se, but we work in countries across the regions. The example of the women entrepreneurship project is 7 countries across several sub-regions, but certainly focusing on countries that is in greatest need of that particular issue.
One thing I've learned when it comes to championing the cause of gender parity and women empowerment is that we women, we can't do it without the men. We have to get the men on board.
That's true.
To also fight for this cause. How do you see the role of men when it comes to championing gender parity as well?
That's very important. Very important. Just to take as an example, maybe concrete example, in UN, our Secretary General commitment, and it translated concretely. So we have a compact, or like a performance, performance commitment, gender parity. So by 2021, 50% of positions posts, for example, in my office has to be
in the UN.
In UN overall, as well as in the case of ESCAP, certainly in my office. So I have to commit that by 2021, 50% have to be equally.
That is amazing, because looking at statistics from the International Labour Organization, they say that women only hold 1 in 3 managerial positions in the world. So the UN is trying to make sure that it
50%.
is 50%.
Yeah, 1 in 2.
And that also, I hope, includes the gender pay gap as well.
In UN there is no gap.
There is
in
no
in
gap.
UN, yeah.
Oh, at the UN
But,
level.
right, yeah, in UN, yeah, because
Wonderful.
equally.
But that is, I mean, that is a problem regionally as well and around the world. I mean, the Asian Development Bank said that within this region, we have women tend to get paid 25% less than their
Less
male
in the
counterparts.
equal, yeah.
That's right.
Position.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think maybe one of the issues to look at is not just social development on the ground, but also as countries get progressively more developed, you're looking at issues of representation in boards,
representation in parliament.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Which is very important to give voice to women.
Exactly. See other women as role models.
Yes.
Well, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you, Ibu Armida. Thank you so much for
Thank you
taking
very
the
much.
time
Thank you
to
very
speak
much.
with me
Yeah.
today on The Future is Female. It's been such a
Thank
pleasure.
you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So that was my conversation with Ibu Armida Salsiah Alisjahbana. She is the UN Under-Secretary General. She's also the head of UN ESCAP. Now, if you missed any part of that conversation, you can catch the full interview on astroawani.com. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. Now, I'll be back next week on The Future is Female, speaking to more inspirational women. But till then, let me leave you with some words of female empowerment. Gender equality is not just a woman's issue, it's a human rights issue. Till next week, I'm Melisa Idris, and remember, the future is female.